They said that the Golden State Warriors were finished. They said that Steph's best days were behind him, and that the opportunities that they missed in the offseason would be too much to overcome. For a minute, it was sort of looking like they were right. This offseason, the Warriors would add some really nice depth, but they'd failed to make that big splash that Steph had been wanting so badly. That wouldn't be because they didn't try though. We very briefly talked about this in my most recent Paul George / James Harden video, which check that one out after this one if you haven't done so already. But despite missing out on both Paul George and Lauri Markkanen, the Warriors apparently came pretty close to getting some deals done. At least according to Paul George himself. As Draymond put it, the Clippers weren't really willing to play ball and Danny Ainge was being Danny Ainge. In hindsight, that reluctance from LA and Ainge's typical negotiation style turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened to Golden State, as both Paul George and Lauri Markkanen both played well below expectations this season. Neither of these players have been needle movers for their respective teams. But do you want to know what player has? Jimmy Butler, the guy that the Warriors would actually trade for ahead of the trade deadline. The playoffs are going strong, and playoff Jimmy is already in full effect. But before we continue, if you are enjoying the content, then be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you never miss out on any of our uploads. You know those moments when you're watching Steph sink impossible shots or Jimmy Butler explode in the fourth quarter against your favorite team and you're screaming not again? Well, with Underdog, you can have these superstars doing this for your team and winning you some money with their pick'em game. Here are my picks for tonight. We're going to go with Giannis scoring higher than 31.5 points after he was one of the only Bucks to show up for Game 1, and then Luka Doncic going higher than 6.5 assists. After that 1 assist game from him, I can definitely see him putting more of an emphasis on getting his teammates involved. When you sign up for Underdog, be sure to use code COOP. It's a great way to support the channel, plus you'll score up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Thank you guys for the support, and thank you Underdog for the sponsor. I already know what some of you might be thinking when you hear the name Jimmy Butler. That he's a player who's been labeled as toxic or hard to work with.
The reason, except for to compete and go up against the best to try to prove that I can hang. So all my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No, but I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're gonna get inside the line.
While Jimmy definitely does stir the pot, here's the reality. The guy loves the game and is very passionate, and this passionate love for the game helps to elevate everybody around him. Every franchise that Butler has joined has found new life with him on the court. It truly doesn't make any sense how much that this guy impacts the game. Butler helped the Timberwolves to end a 14-year playoff drought, came within a buzzer beater of taking the 76ers to the conference finals, led the Heat to an unlikely NBA Finals appearance in the bubble, and had an even more unlikely finals appearance leading them there as the 8th seed in 2023. His relentless energy, tenacious defense, and vocal leadership can drag an entire roster to another level. So call him toxic if you want to, but you also have to call him one of the most transformative forces in the league today. If Jimmy Butler had ever landed with my Pelicans, then maybe Zion Williamson wouldn't have needed such a steep learning curve to become who he is today. Butler's fierce leadership and defensive intensity would have provided an ideal blueprint for Zion to follow. With the Warriors trading for Jimmy Butler, they'd become the latest team to witness firsthand exactly how transformative that Jimmy Butler is.
He looked like he got belief. That's all. Like that's all it is. Like
he energized.
Steph, he looked like he got belief. He said to me in Utah after the trade, he looked at me and he said, "Man, it's crazy because it just dawned on me that like this is it.
This is the last ride.
Last ride." Like, and I said, "Yeah,
Yep.
let's do it." Like,
Let's ride.
Like,
Let's ride to the wheels fall off. Guns blazing.
it was an emotional moment.
Sure, giving up assets like Wiggins and Schroeder was tough, but in the grand scheme of things, they paid a relatively small price to pay to have Steph's last ride go as smoothly as possible. Let's face it, You can't really put a price on reigniting the joy of the player who almost single-handedly redefined your entire franchise.
Bridges saves it but tosses it to Green. Butler to Curry. Shooting practice. Not wrong.
Wow, what a turn of a...
Like I said, moments like this one are priceless. But before the Jimmy trade, moments like this were hard to come by. And overall, things were looking pretty bleak in Golden State. After suffering a 30-point loss to the Kings on January 5th, and then a 16-point defeat to the Heat on the 7th, Steph admitted that he was ticked off, and that the team was struggling to figure things out. He pointed out that back-to-back flat performances feel awful, and that once the team loses its spark, it's glaring how bad that they can look, stressing that they'd have to fight their way through. On January 20th, after another blowout, this time at the hands of the defending champions, Steph found himself repeating those same frustrations all over again.
Big part of our season has been when we can't score, we lose spirit, we lose life, we lose competitiveness.
Steph was starting to sound like a broken clock. Seeing Steph frustrated all of the time sucked. However, seeing Steph frustrated as frequently as we were would be a thing of the past, as that Jimmy Butler trade would change everything. Shortly after acquiring Jimmy Butler, him and the Warriors would agree on a $111 million 2-year extension. This trade and extension would put an end to Jimmy's so-called misery on the court.
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But
ever since the Jimmy Butler trade, the Warriors have reclaimed their spot among the NBA's elite. With Jimmy Butler on the floor during the regular season, the Warriors cooked teams left and right, cruising to a dominant 23-7 record with him. Without him, they would only be 25-27. This season, Jimmy Butler has stuffed the stat sheet for the Warriors, putting up 17.9 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.9 assists a night. But here's the real story. Since Jimmy's arrived, Steph's game has exploded, jumping to 27.6 points per game. That's a huge leap from the 22.1 points per game that he was averaging in the regular season before the Warriors traded for Butler. Even with Jimmy Butler balling out though, the Warriors season came crashing down to reality when Harrison Barnes of all people buried them with the stunning buzzer beater. And then Draymond missed the wide open layup in OT that would have kept their hopes alive for that game. Talk about a nightmare of an ending to the regular season. Those tough losses helped to drop the Warriors right into the last place that any team wants to end up, the play-in tournament. But we all know what happens to Jimmy Butler when the postseason rolls around. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry would combine for 75 points as they defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 121-116 in their first and only game of the play-in tournament. Winning this game would lead to a matchup against the Houston Rockets. Harden, cover your ears. From 2015 to 2019, Steph and the Golden State Warriors would eliminate James Harden and the Rockets from the playoffs 4 times. The wounds from the Rockets missing 27 consecutive three-pointers in 2018 are still fresh for a lot of Rockets lovers, including myself. Historically, Steph has destroyed the Rockets, and like the good family man that Steph is, he wanted to continue that tradition. And in Game 1, he did just that. Not too long ago, Thompson and the Rockets completely threw Steph off of his game, holding him to a stunning 1-of-10 clip in a rare Warriors loss. Naturally, Houston came into this matchup thinking that they had the blueprint, but Golden State flipped the script. This time around, the Rockets were left chasing shadows as Steph and Jimmy Butler did just enough to outlast what was actually a great defensive effort from one of the league's top defenses. Even when the Rockets played perfect defense and had the shot clock on the verge of expiring, Steph Curry didn't care. With Jalen Green in his face matching him step for step, Steph was still doing this. Sometimes it doesn't matter how great that your defense is or how physical that you are with Steph. Even if you throw him off of his game, he'll usually still find ways to produce. He's so good that if you're just letting him get a shot off, you're already fighting what's typically a losing battle. Steph had 31-6-3, while Jimmy had 25-7-6, and 5 steals to go along with that. In moments when the offense stalls and nothing comes easy, that's when stars like Jimmy and Steph really earn their checks. With no Jimmy, Game 1 has a completely different vibe. But with Jimmy, you can send a message. They hit big shots, clamped up on defense, and held the number 2 seeded Rockets to just 85 points. That's not just a win, that's a message. I love how this series is the storied Golden State Warriors playing the new kids on the block in the Houston Rockets. That Rockets team has a lot of potential, is a lot of fun now, and is going to be a lot of fun for years to come. Once one of their young players takes that next step, or they go out and get a guy who can take over games down the stretch from the perimeter, how many teams in the league are going to be more dangerous than the Houston Rockets? There are a lot of wrinkles and narratives for both of these teams that I look forward to diving into deeper. So be sure to subscribe so that you guys don't miss any of that. Anyways, there's some more going on in the basketball world that we need to be covering. So clicking the video on the screen right now and using code COOP for Underdog are both great ways to support this channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.